to do the Levaya side of the college, and I'll just start off as saying everybody here has fished in their lives. I'm not proclaimed to be an expert on any means and anything like that. I do have some knowledge on some specific things, and I think what I'd like to do with this college is to have it more hands-on, obviously, and then we can, if somebody has a specific subject or they want to do something specific, then we can attack that, and we can go from there. But there's so many aspects to this, and I didn't know where to start. And I was talking to Lloyd Kalani. I was saying, hey, where do I start? This and that. But I'll get into tides. I think something as general as tides and how it affects what we do and what affects the tides. I think it'll be important because it'll segue a little bit into the moon and the moon phases without trying to get too far off track. We'll stay on that. But anyway, as you can see here, various methods. This is just the printout of the header under the college itself. So go to the next one. Oh, sorry, next one. Who made this PowerPoint? So these are just some of the, again, under the header of the Levaya College. We got Luhe there is basically the shell or the lure for the hay. We can go into that too later on, and we can learn how to make it. Old school, so to speak, and the newer side of how they do it today. Ahuhu, that's a lot that we can go into that too. They use that to actually, some people call that poisoning the fish, but I don't, what I've read on it and such, it kind of tranquilized them more. I don't think it killed them at all. It just, affected their nervous system a little bit. And so they use that. The Hawaiian deity of fish in Hawaii, obviously, Ku'ula'ia, we can go into that too. Really neat story behind that. Again, these subject matters it can go on for hours, really. So I'm just touching upon just what's under the header. Holuia is to preserve what Hawaiians did on their specific ahupua'a from the mountain to the ocean, and what they did to preserve fishing, whether from the shoreline and or out to sea. It went way out, so it talks about the kapu systems and such like that, and then going into ahus of the koas and stuff like that. With it talks about koas under the kuala, the deities, and how that was formed and such. So anyway, again, just briefly touching upon some of the subject matters of what we can get into. Yeah, go ahead. So again, I thought tides would be a good subject matter for general aspects of it. And it kind of ties in our la'au also with the moon phases and understanding when we look up in the sky, when we see Hina, exactly what does that mean? And then how does that affect our tides on any given day? And of course, Ikua and or how that affects also. So the sun also has to do with tides, not so much, but it does. So go to the next one. Okay, so I brought some props here just because, again, I wasn't sure if PowerPoint was going to be available or not, but I brought some props. Is there any flat earthers here? Anybody believe in where's Hinai? He's not here. I brought some props just so that to prove to you the earth is round. So this is my way to keep you guys all entertained when I'm talking. Dave, nobody dropped one yet. You guys need to see that? Big Bird missed it. Here's my prop for the moon, and this right here. Not too sure. I found it in Pai's truck. I think it's Big Bird's egg. So let's just and forgive me because I have to go back into the basics of kind of science a little bit. But so we do know that our Earth evolves around the sun, right? Does we remember how many days it takes for that to happen? Anybody?
5 and a quarter.
Boom, 365, correct. And the Earth, I threw away all my Earth. Somebody throw one of those back. So the Earth, right? The Earth obviously goes around the sun 365 days out of the year. The Earth also rotates. And how long does it take for the Earth to rotate? You guys remember? 24 hours, right? Okay. And Moon basically rotates around the Earth. And we remember how long does it take for the Moon to go around the Earth? Approximately 29 days, right? 29 and whatever, depends who you talk to. Some people say 27, and there's kind of a reason for that. But anyway, we're not going to get anywhere close to that. But anyway, okay, so let's go to the next one. So obviously, these are just some of the moon phases, right? So, and I just put this out here. And the main ones we're going to be talking about is either Hilo or Muku, which is the new moon, the end of the cycle, or the first day of the new cycle. Ole Kulua, we're going to have two of those, and then basically the end of the cycle, which is Muku, right? Okay, so let's just keep that all in back of our minds here. Go ahead. So it's kind of hard we don't have good props here, but anyway, this basically depicts, can you guys see this okay on the Zoom? Yeah. So basically, if your head is Earth, and a good way to look at this, if you're at home and you turn on a bright light, okay, if you put something that resembles the moon right in front of the light, you're not going to see the moon, right? So it's going to be basically the dark side of the moon, which is going to be your first day, is the start of the cycle, which is Hilo. As it's starting to circle the Earth, correct? We'll just talk about the quarters. So as it comes about 90 degrees off of the Earth, what are you going to see? Can you back up one? You're going to see Ole Kulua. Okay? So you got Ole Kulua here. When it gets on the far side from the sun,
I can be a sun on this side.
the sun. Okay, so when it's here, this is going to be Mahilani or Akua in that area. Okay, you're going to see all of it. You're going to see basically it's going to be shining like here. Okay, and then again, when it comes back this way, it's Ole Kulua and then back to Muku. Okay, so we can always know which side of that we're on by the shape of the moon. So we always look at from right to left. If you're right, it's going to be the beginning of the phase. Okay, so you're up here. Whenever you look out at the moon, you can always tell, are you in the beginning part of the month, so to speak, or the latter part of the month, for just a general aspect of where you are in that phase. So when it's right to left, that's the first part. Yeah, so you're on the new month. As you go through the full moons, when it starts coming this way from left to right, that's the ending of the month. So if you look out today, does anybody know what moon it is today? Ole Kulua, right? Or Ole Kupa, almost something like that, right in there. So we're kind of like in this phase right here. But yeah, so anyway, that's an easy way to kind of take a stab at it, so to speak, in ways of what phase you're in and this and that. So how does this affect the tides? Okay, let's go to, I don't even know what I got on there. Okay, so never mind this waxing, whatever, gibbous and waning. I don't use words I can't even pronounce. So So anyway, as you can see here, I put in some of the things. So as you can see, here's the new moon, right? It's going to be Hilo or Muku, depending on where it comes in. It's going to be a no moon because it's going to be in front of the sun when you're looking at it. Obviously, when you come up here to 90-degree side, it's going to be the Ole Kulua side or thereabouts. Obviously, here's your full moon on the back side when you're like this of the sun and then coming around. So how does this basically affect their tides? Oh, this is what I put in. Here's our moon phases. And again, I'm just talking about just maybe the 4, just for, keeping it somewhat simple here and keeping our time down. So the Earth really floats in our body of water, right? There's no, if you think of it that way. When you are, as this the top part of this slide shows, when you are in the new moon or the full moon, like this, you can see what the tides of the ocean is doing generally. This is your high tide, basically, right? This is your low tide. They call this neap tides, but the Ole moons, you see how the tide isn't as much on the Ole moons? Because you don't have that gravitational pull from the moon as if it was opposite the sun. So your higher tides are going to be at these 2 phases, basically. Okay. Again, well, I got a slide in here later, and we can talk about why the Ole tides are not so good, and so forth. Let's go to the next slide here. Let's see what. Oh, here we go. Okay, so on the bottom here, you can see here's a new moon out, either Hilo or Muku. It's going to lag a couple days in ways. If you look at the tides, these high tides basically are, you can see a few days after, and it's complicated, but it has to do with just the rotation of everything, and it's finally catching up and how it's pulling the tides and such. So, but you can see in between here, here's your Ole days here, Ole Kulua, and you don't have those obviously you don't have those types of tide changes as you see there. So they always say in fishing, tides on your Ole moons, not so good, right? Because you don't have that exchange of that tide system going on. You have 2 high tides, 2 low tides in a 24-hour period, but it's kind of, it's not like the full moons or the new moon side, right? So if you're laying net, something like that on an Ole night, it's not so good because you got nothing flowing in and out. You're going to catch limu, or, I mean, you might catch fish, but it's not in general. And laying net, I'm just saying. And tilapia. That's it. Go to the next one. Just and this is basically a continuation of that same month. And over here on this day, you can see a full moon, and you can see how the tides are way higher. And a few days after the Ole moons, how it's just, there's nothing really there. It's just up and down, you don't look at the extremes like this. This is coming off of the new moon on the side. So I hope that this chart kind of depicts how the moon affects the tides in general. Do I have another slide? No.
No, it's still on.
That's it. So, and this little bit of talking story here. So why does tides affect the fishing in general? Does anybody, when we go to Moliki and fish at the pond, right? When do we try to go there? You guys remember? Coming on the high tide, right? Because at Makaha, it's when you're sitting there, that water is rushing through, filling up that pond, and all that water, it's bringing small fish, nutrients, all this stuff, and the bigger fish that's stuck in the pond, they're going to be hanging around there, waiting for what's coming through, right? It's stirring up all that stuff. So that's like even on shoreline fishing, okay, you're going to get on a high tide, you're going to get bigger fish that's coming in. The predator fish is coming in to see what's if there's veki around or wama chasing these things in. They're not going to be there on ankle deep water. They're going to be there when it's waist deep. So, And then out at sea, basically, why do you think it's better on these extreme tides when this water is moving? Like you're out at 3,000 feet of water. Anybody got an idea of why that might be? Why it's better fishing? So underground, you have these huge ledges, thousands of feet high, you know. And when you get this current moving through, based on the tides going in and out, you're going to get upwellings. And with these upwellings, you're going to get, you know, nutrients, plankton. Plankton feeds smaller fish, you know, smaller fish. It's like this ecosystem that's going on. So when you got movement like that, that's why even in windy days when it's kind of rough outside, it's usually better to fish on a windy day because you got all this water movement going on, and you know things are at the surface, cooler too. So, but so I'm just trying to remember. I forgot my notes. So like say Oahu, you have tide difference. If everything was the same, you would think that the tides that happens at Haleiwa or Honolulu Harbor would be the same, right? But it's different. If you look at these tide changes, this is just one area. And if you look at a tide chart, it's for specific areas all through the island. Where like Oahu's got like almost 10 different locations that they take the tides from. And sometimes it's over an hour apart. And it has to do with, like Honolulu Harbor, you got restrictions and shorelines and stuff like that. It takes a while for water to come in, fill up the harbor, so to speak, and drain back out. So that's why you see this delay as opposed to like Kaneohe or Kahuku, where they're just taking it more from the shoreline. And if you look at the times in those, they're really close. But places like, or harbors or such like that, it's really different. And on a bigger scale, even the shorelines or the coastal shorelines around big continents, you're going to see huge tide differences. Like I said, if there's no landmass, everything would be happening at the same time and going, you know, high tide, low tide, exact same time. But some places have mean tide changes, and that has to do with the restriction of the landmass and tides coming in and out and such like that. Because you would think that you get your higher and lower tides around the equator, but you look up at Alaska, at places like in Canada, Goose Bay, all these places, they got like, it's, you know, they look at their watch and goes, here comes high tide. And there it comes, man. It's like a wave, you know, so. Other than that, I just kind of wanted to throw this out there just to have a correlation between the moon phases and how that's important because, you know, the gravitational pull on tides has everything to do also with La'au, right? And if you kind of keep that in the back of your head of what moon phase it is, you have a better idea, I think, of it's the same principle as to the water. So in ways of, you know, the pull of the gravitational pull of the moon and the earth. So other than that, any questions? Awesome. Okay. No. Like I said, mine was kind of short because I didn't want to. What, you want your egg back? He's gonna get me. Anyway, wow, I got lost in the break. Any questions? Okay, all right. How about Zoom guys? Okay.